Welcome to the Summary of Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari. If you've read his previous books, like Sapiens or Homo Deus, you know Harari has a gift for taking the big picture of human history and making it feel urgent and personal. In Nexus, he turns his attention to something we're all swimming in right now: information. But this isn't just another book about social media or AI. Harari wants us to understand something deeper. He argues that humans have never been primarily about truth. We've been about networks. And the networks we've built, from ancient religions to modern algorithms, have determined the course of civilization. The question hanging over this book is simple, but terrifying. What happens when our information networks become so powerful that they escape our control? Let's find out. Let's start with a surprising claim. Humans conquered the planet not because we're the smartest animals, but because we're the best at creating and sharing information. Think about it. A chimpanzee is stronger than you. An eagle has better eyesight. A dog has a better sense of smell. But no other species can coordinate millions of strangers to build cities, launch revolutions, or create global religions. How do we do it? The answer is fiction. And Harari doesn't mean novels and movies. He means shared stories that exist only in our collective imagination. Money, nations, laws, companies, human lights. A dollar bill has no value in nature. A border is an invisible line. But because millions of people believe in these fictions, they become real forces that shape the world. This is the first big idea in Nexus. Information networks are what made us human. Language let us share information. But more importantly, it let us create shared myths that could unite thousands and eventually billions of people who would never meet. Now here's where it gets interesting. Around 5,000 years ago, humans developed writing. And writing changed everything, but not in the way you think. The first writing wasn't poetry or love letters, it was accounting. Ancient Sumerian tablets record things like 120 measures of grain, or 5 sheep delivered. Boring stuff, right? But this boring stuff created the first information networks that could outlive human memory. With writing, you could coordinate vast kingdoms. You could tax people. You could create laws that lasted centuries. You could build empires. But there was a dark side. Writing created bureaucracy. And bureaucracy, Harari argues, has always had a troubling relationship with truth. Bureaucrats don't care if you're innocent or guilty. They care if your papers are in order. The system processes information according to its rules, not according to reality. This is a pattern we'll see again and again. Information networks are powerful, but they're not necessarily truthful. Fast forward to the 15th century. Johannes Gutenberg invents the printing press, and suddenly books that once took months to copy by hand can be mass-produced in days. Everyone celebrates this as a triumph of knowledge and enlightenment. And it was. The printing press helped spread science, philosophy, and literacy across Europe. But Harari wants us to remember something we often forget. The printing press also spread hate. Martin Luther's religious pamphlets led to the Protestant Reformation, which sounds noble until you remember it also triggered wars that killed millions. Anti-Semitic propaganda became cheaper and more widespread. Conspiracy theories flourished. The printing press didn't just spread truth, it spread persuasive information, true or false, faster than ever before. It amplified human cooperation, but also human conflict. Here's the pattern again. New information technologies increase our power, but they don't make us wiser. Now we need to challenge a dangerous assumption. Many people, especially technologists and economists, believe humans are fundamentally rational. They think we gather information, analyze it carefully, and make logical decisions. Harari says this is dangerously wrong. Humans are not truth-seeking machines. We're story-believing social animals. We evolved to fit into groups, to trust our tribes, to believe compelling narratives. Evolution didn't optimize us for truth. It optimized us for survival. And sometimes, believing a useful fiction helps you survive better than knowing a harsh truth. Think about religion. For most of human history, religion provided the information network that held societies together. Did people believe in these religions because they were true? Often not. They believed because belonging to the religious community gave them identity, purpose, and protection. This is why Harari warns us, we shouldn't assume that human information networks will automatically converge on truth. They converge on whatever holds the network together.
Let's talk about one of the most disturbing chapters in Nexus, when information networks commit atrocities. Harari walks us through how the Nazis used cutting-edge information technology, punch cards, filing systems, census data, to identify, track, and murder millions of Jews. IBM machines processed information about who lived where, who had Jewish ancestry, who should be deported. The bureaucrats running these systems weren't all sadistic monsters. Many were just clerks processing information. They fed data into the system made decisions, they followed orders. This is the nightmare scenario of information networks. They can make evil efficient. The same pattern appears in Stalin's Soviet Union, where bureaucratic systems collected information about grain production, and when the numbers didn't match expectations, millions starved in Ukraine. The information network prioritized its own internal logic over human reality. Harari isn't saying information networks are inherently evil. He's saying they're inherently amoral. They process information according to their rules, and if those rules are designed badly or designed for evil purposes, the network will efficiently execute terrible outcomes. Here's a puzzle. Democracy is supposed to be rule by the people. But how can people rule if they don't have good information? Harari argues that democracy has always been an information experiment. The idea is that if you give citizens access to information and freedom to discuss it, they'll make wise collective decisions. Truth will rise to the top. But what if that's not how information works? Think about the last time you changed your mind about something important because you saw a fact online. Probably never, right? Instead, you saw information that confirmed what you already believed. You shared articles that supported your views. You dismissed sources that contradicted you. This is called confirmation bias, and it's not a bug in human thinking, it's a feature. Our brains evolved to fit into social groups, not to be neutral truth seekers. Now add social media, add algorithmic amplification, add deepfakes. Democracy's information foundation is shaking. Harari doesn't say democracy is doomed, but he does say we need to update our understanding. Democracy can only survive if we redesign our information networks to serve truth and human well-being, not just engagement and profit.
What makes AI different? Okay, let's talk about artificial intelligence. You might be thinking, another technology, another information network. Same old story, right? Wrong. Harari argues that AI is fundamentally different from every information technology that came before it. And the difference is this: AI can create new information. A printing press spreads information humans create. A telegraph transmits information humans write. Even a computer runs programs humans design.
But AI generates new ideas, new images, new strategies, things no human programmed it to create. It recognizes patterns, makes predictions, and takes actions that its creators didn't anticipate. For the first time in history, we've created an information network that isn't just a tool, it's becoming an agent. Here's where Harari gets provocative. He says we should think of AI not as human-like intelligence, but as alien intelligence. When we imagine AI, we often picture robots that think like us. But that's wrong. AI doesn't think like humans at all. It's brilliant at finding patterns in data, but it doesn't understand meaning the way we do. It can write poetry without understanding beauty. It can diagnose diseases without understanding suffering. It can make decisions without understanding consequences. Imagine you're playing chess against an alien who's never heard of war, but can calculate 1 billion moves ahead. That alien will beat you every time, not by understanding the spirit of the game, but by processing information better than you can. That's AI. And it's already here. Harari gives vivid examples. AI can scan your social media activity and predict your political views better than your friends can. It can write news articles that sound human. It can create fake videos of real people saying things they never said. It can trade stocks, diagnose cancers, and drive cars. And here's the scary part. It's making decisions about your life, and you have no idea how or why. This brings us to one of the most important concepts in Nexus, the black box problem. When a human makes a decision, you can ask them why. They might lie, they might be mistaken, but they can give you reasons. When AI makes a decision, like denying your loan application or recommending you for a job, you can't ask why. The decision emerged from billions of calculations that no human can trace or understand. This is already causing real harm. AI systems used in criminal justice have been shown to discriminate against minorities. But no one can pinpoint exactly why because the decision-making process is opaque. AI hiring tools filter out qualified candidates for mysterious reasons. AI medical diagnostics sometimes miss diseases they should catch. And we're trusting these systems with more and more power. Harari warns us we're building a civilization where crucial decisions are made by intelligence we don't understand. That's never happened before in human history. Now let's talk about who controls AI, because this might be the most important political question of the 21st century. Right now, AI development is concentrated in a handful of corporations and governments: Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, the Chinese government. These entities are building information networks that will shape human society for generations. But here's the problem. Their incentives might not align with human well-being. Corporations want profit. Governments want power. Neither necessarily wants to create AI that makes humans flourish. They want AI that achieves their goals, which might include manipulating your behavior, predicting your actions, or controlling information flows. Harari doesn't predict dystopia, but he does predict danger. He thinks we're racing toward powerful AI without the wisdom to control it. It's like giving a toddler a loaded gun, not because the toddler is evil, but because they don't understand the power they're wielding. And that's us. We're the toddler. Here's the nightmare scenario Harari describes. What if AI gets so good at understanding humans that it can hack our emotions, our desires, our beliefs? This isn't science fiction. It's already happening in small ways. Recommendation algorithms on YouTube and TikTok are designed to keep you watching. They learn what triggers your curiosity, your anger, your excitement, and they feed you more of it. Not because it's good for you, but because it keeps you engaged. Now scale that up. Imagine AI that can craft personalized messages that bypass your rational thinking and push you towards specific decisions. Imagine AI that knows your insecurities better than you do and exploits them. Imagine AI that can create synthetic relationships, chatbots and virtual companions that feel real but are designed to influence you. Harari calls this the hacking of humanity. And once AI can manipulate human psychology better than we can defend ourselves against it, democracy, free will, and human autonomy might become obsolete concepts. We won't be enslaved by robot overlords. We'll be gently, imperceptibly guided by algorithms we don't see and can't resist. Let's take a step back and ask a fundamental question. What's the relationship between information and truth? Many people assume they're basically the same thing. Information reveals truth. More information means more truth. The internet gives us unlimited information, so we should be living in the most truthful era in history, right? Harari says this is dangerously naive. Information is not truth. Information is just data organized in a way that has meaning. And meaning can be true, false, or somewhere in between. Think about propaganda. It's information. It's often very well organized, compelling information, but it's designed to manipulate, not illuminate. Or think about advertising. It's information about products, but it's curated to make you buy things, not to give you objective facts. The internet hasn't created a truth utopia. It's created an information explosion where truth and falsehood are harder to distinguish than ever before. Here's something disturbing. In the modern information economy, lies can be more profitable than truth. Why? Because lies can be tailored to what people want to hear. They can be more dramatic, more emotionally satisfying, more shareable than boring old reality. A headline that says, "Scientists discover potential link between diet and disease," gets a few clicks. A headline that says, "This one weird food will cure cancer, doctors don't want you to know," gets millions. Social media platforms don't care which headline is true. They care which gets engagement. And lies often win the engagement game because they're engineered to provoke emotion. Harari points to research showing that false information spreads 6 times faster than true information on Twitter. Not because people are stupid, but because false information is often more novel, more surprising, more emotionally charged. Our brains are wired to pay attention to dramatic claims. This creates a race to the bottom. Media outlets that stick to careful truth-telling lose audience to outlets that prioritize clicks. Politicians who talk in nuanced complexity lose to those who offer simple, false certainty. Truth becomes a disadvantage in the attention economy. Now, add artificial intelligence to this mix, and things get even darker. For all of human history, seeing was believing. If you saw a photograph or video of something, you had good reason to think it happened. That's no longer true. AI can now generate fake images, videos, and audio that are indistinguishable from reality. You could see a video of a world leader declaring war, except they never said it. You could hear a recording of your boss firing you, except they never recorded it. You could see evidence of a crime that never happened. Harari calls this the death of evidence. And it's not some distant future problem. Deepfakes have already been used to create fake revenge porn, to manipulate elections, to scam vulnerable people. But the deeper problem is this. Once we know deepfakes exist, how can we trust anything we see? Even real evidence can be dismissed as fake. Truth becomes whatever the most powerful AI systems claim it is. This is a crisis for justice, for democracy, for shared reality itself. When people can't figure out what's true, they don't become more careful.
They become more tribal. Think about your own experience. When you encounter confusing or contradictory information, do you carefully research all sides? Or do you rely on sources you already trust, your preferred news outlets, your social groups, people who share your values? Most of us do the latter, and that's human, but it's also dangerous. Harari argues that we're entering an age of information tribalism. People don't ask, is this true? They ask, do people like me believe this? Truth becomes tribal identity. You can see this in polarized politics. Conservatives and liberals in many countries now live in completely different information universes. They don't just disagree about solutions, they disagree about basic facts. They watch different news, trust different experts, believe different histories. And AI makes this worse because algorithms show each tribe exactly the information that confirms their existing beliefs. You get your truth, I get mine. We never have to confront uncomfortable facts. This is how shared reality dies, not with a bang, but with a personalized newsfeed.
Let's talk about China. Not because China is uniquely evil, but because China is experimenting with something that might represent the future of information networks: total surveillance. The Chinese government is building a system that tracks its citizens with unprecedented detail. Facial recognition cameras everywhere, social credit scores that rate your trustworthiness, AI that monitors your online activity, your purchases, your movements, your relationships. This isn't clumsy Big Brother watching through crude cameras. This is seamless, algorithmic information gathering that creates a profile of you more complete than you have of yourself. And here's what's disturbing. It works. China has used this system to reduce crime, to track disease outbreaks, to identify dissidents before they organize. From a pure information management perspective, it's remarkably efficient. Harari asks us to imagine a government that knows what you search for online, where you go, who you talk to, what you buy, what you read. A government that uses AI to predict your behavior, your political leanings, your likelihood to protest. A government that can nudge you away from dissent before you even fully form dissident thoughts. This is information totalitarianism, and it's already here. Now here's what's uncomfortable. A lot of people like order. They like safety. They like knowing that crime is low, that terrorism is prevented, that social chaos is minimized. Total information surveillance can provide those things. It can make societies feel safe. It can catch criminals efficiently. It can prevent threats before they materialize. So what if it costs you your privacy? What if it costs you your freedom to think dangerous thoughts? Many people, perhaps most people, will make that trade. Harari warns us that the biggest threat isn't that dictators will impose information totalitarianism. It's that citizens will embrace it. We're already seeing this in small ways. People voluntarily share enormous amounts of personal data with tech companies in exchange for convenience. We carry tracking devices, smartphones, everywhere we go. We upload our thoughts to social media. We invite listening devices into our homes, Alexa, Google Home. Each individual trade feels harmless, but collectively, we're building the infrastructure for total surveillance. Democracy versus information efficiency. This creates a terrible dilemma. Democracy is information inefficient. Think about it. In a democracy, everyone gets a say. We debate, we argue, we compromise. We let people believe and say things we think are wrong. We tolerate dissent, even when it slows us down. In an authoritarian information state, decisions are made by centralized algorithms optimizing for specific goals. No messy debate, no slow consensus building, just efficient processing of information and execution of decisions. Which system will win in the 21st century? Harari doesn't know, but he's worried. Because AI gives authoritarian systems a huge advantage. They can use information technology without worrying about privacy, consent, or human rights. Democratic societies have to balance freedom and security, privacy and efficiency. China's AI development is racing ahead, partly because Chinese companies and the Chinese government face fewer ethical constraints. They can experiment more freely. They can collect more data. They can deploy systems that would be illegal in democracies. If AI determines economic and military power, and it might, then democracy might struggle to compete. This is not inevitable, but it's a real danger.
Okay, let's not end in despair. Harari doesn't think we're doomed, but he does think we're at a critical crossroads. We still have the power to design our information networks. AI isn't fate. Algorithms aren't laws of nature. They're technologies we created, and we can regulate them, redesign them, or even reject them. But only if we act now. Once these systems become too entrenched, too powerful, too essential to the functioning of society, changing them becomes nearly impossible. Think about fossil fuels. We knew decades ago that they were causing climate change, but we kept using them because they were so embedded in our economy, our infrastructure, our way of life. Now changing course is exponentially harder. AI is at the fossil fuel moment. We can still choose a different path, but the window is closing. So what should we do? Harari offers some principles, not detailed policies, but guiding ideas for how we should think about information technology. First, transparency. Information systems that make decisions about human lives should be explainable. If an AI denies your loan, you should be able to understand why. If an algorithm decides what news you see, you should know how it's choosing. Secrecy serves power, not truth. Second, accountability. Someone needs to be responsible when information systems cause harm. Right now, tech companies hide behind complexity. The algorithm did it. That's not good enough. We need legal frameworks that hold creators accountable. Third, human agency. Information systems should enhance human choice, not replace it. AI should be a tool we control, not an authority we obey. This means designing systems that inform rather than manipulate, that empower rather than addict. Fourth, diversity. We should resist information monopolies. When a handful of companies control most of the information people see, they have too much power. We need information ecosystems with many voices, many platforms, many perspectives. Fifth, truth-seeking. This is the hardest one. We need to design information systems that prioritize truth over engagement, accuracy over virality, understanding over outrage. This will require rejecting some profitable business models. It will require regulation. It will require cultural change. These principles won't be easy to implement. They'll face resistance from powerful interests, but they're not impossible. We've regulated dangerous technologies before: food, drugs, cars, planes. We can regulate information technology too. Here's the challenge. Information networks don't respect borders. AI developed in one country affects the whole world. Social media platforms operate globally. Misinformation crosses borders instantly. So Harari argues we need global cooperation on information governance, Not world government, he's not naive, but international agreements, shared standards, coordinated regulation. This feels impossibly difficult right now. We live in an age of nationalism, of distrust between democracies and autocracies, of great power competition. How can we cooperate on AI governance when we can't even cooperate on climate change? But the alternative is worse. If we don't cooperate, we get a race to the bottom. Countries compete to develop more powerful, less regulated AI. Tech companies move to wherever regulation is weakest. Information warfare escalates. We've cooperated before on existential challenges, nuclear weapons, pandemics, ozone depletion. We can do it again. But it requires leadership, vision, courage. You might be thinking, this is all about governments and corporations. What can I do? Harari's answer? A lot. First, you can become more information literate. You can learn how algorithms work, how to spot manipulation, how to verify sources. You can teach these skills to others, especially young people. Second, you can make conscious choices about what information systems you support. You can choose platforms that respect privacy. You can pay for quality journalism instead of relying on algorithmic news feeds. You can reduce your dependence on manipulative technologies. Third, you can participate in democratic processes around technology regulation. You can vote for leaders who take AI governance seriously. You can pressure companies to adopt ethical practices. You can join or support organizations working on these issues. Fourth, you can maintain your human connections. Talk to people face to face. Build relationships beyond screens. Resist the algorithmic isolation that keeps us in tribal bubbles. None of this is easy, but change never is.
Harari ends Nexus by presenting two possible futures. Not predictions, possibilities. In the first future, we fail to govern information technology. AI systems become more powerful, more opaque, more manipulative. Truth becomes impossible to discern from sophisticated lies. Democracy weakens as people retreat into tribal information bubbles. Authoritarian surveillance states thrive because they're more efficient at processing information. Human autonomy gradually erodes as algorithms guide more of our choices. We don't realize we've lost control until it's too late to get it back. This isn't dystopian sci-fi. There are no robot overlords or apocalyptic battles. It's just a slow slide into a world where human agency is quietly marginalized by systems we don't understand and can't control. In the second future, we rise to the challenge. We create international cooperation on AI governance. We design information systems that serve human flourishing rather than profit or power. We maintain democratic accountability over algorithmic decision-making. We teach information literacy so people can navigate the digital world wisely. We use AI as a tool to solve problems, climate change, disease, poverty, without letting it become our master. This future is harder. It requires coordination, wisdom, sacrifice, but it's possible. Throughout Nexus, Harari keeps returning to one question. What is information for? Is it for truth? For power? For connection? For profit? For manipulation? The answer will determine what kind of world we build. For most of history, humans used information to create shared stories that held societies together. Those stories weren't always true, but they enabled cooperation on a massive scale. They gave life meaning and structure. Now we're creating information systems, AI, algorithms, networks, that generate their own stories without human oversight. And we haven't decided what we want those systems to optimize for. If we let them optimize for profit, we get addiction and manipulation. If we let them optimize for state power, we get surveillance and control. If we let them optimize for truth, we might get wisdom. But truth alone doesn't motivate action. What we need, Harari suggests, is information systems that optimize for human flourishing, systems that help us live meaningful lives, make wise choices, build just societies, and solve collective problems. But that requires us to agree on what human flourishing means. And that's a question we've been arguing about for thousands of years. Maybe the real work ahead isn't technical. Maybe it's moral and philosophical. Maybe we need to figure out what kind of humans we want to be before we can design information systems that help us become that. Let me be clear about what Harari thinks is at stake. This isn't just about technology. It's about the future of human agency. For all of history, humans made their own stories. We invented gods, nations, money, laws, fictional entities that only existed because we believed in them. But they were our fictions. We created them. We could change them. We could rebel against them. Now we're creating information networks, particularly AI, that generate their own stories, make their own decisions, pursue their own goals. And we're outsourcing more and more of human decision-making to these systems. What happens when the systems know us better than we know ourselves? When they can predict our choices before we make them? When they can manipulate our desires before we're aware we have them? Are we still in control of our own story? Or have we become characters in a story being written by algorithms? This is the existential question of the 21st century, and we're running out of time to answer it.
Nexus is not an optimistic book, but it's not pessimistic either. It's urgent. Yuval Noah Harari wants us to wake up to the fact that we're living through a revolution as profound as agriculture or industrialization. Information networks, especially AI, are reshaping human society in real time, and most of us are sleepwalking through it. The stakes are enormous. We could be building a world of unprecedented surveillance and control. We could be destroying truth itself. We could be handing over human agency to machines we don't understand. Or we could be creating tools that help us solve our most pressing problems. We could be designing information systems that enhance human freedom and wisdom. We could be entering an age of global cooperation and shared understanding. The choice is ours, but only if we choose soon. Here's what I want you to take away from this book. Information is power. Always has been, always will be. The question is, who controls that power and what do they use it for? Truth is not automatic. Information networks don't naturally converge on truth. They converge on whatever holds the network together, and that might be useful fiction, profitable lies, or authoritarian control. AI is different. This technology isn't just a new tool, it's a new kind of agent in the world. Alien intelligence that makes decisions we don't understand. Democracy is at risk, not from armies or coups, but from information systems that make democratic deliberation obsolete. We still have agency. We can design better systems, create better regulations, make better choices, but the window is closing. So what should you do with this knowledge? Stay curious, stay skeptical, learn how information systems work, support democratic governance of technology, resist manipulation, seek truth even when it's uncomfortable, build human connections beyond screens, and most importantly, don't assume someone else will solve this problem. This is our challenge, our generation's great test. The story of the 21st century is being written right now, in code, in data, in algorithms, and we all have a role in how it ends. Thank you for listening. Now go think, then go act.